Hey guys, and welcome to another It's Our Podcast show with your host Winston and Steven.
Hi.
Steven, how's it going?
It's going good.
Yes.
What are we doing this week?
Well, a lot of things, but in this podcast, we'll be showing you some of the equipment that we use for our podcast show. Whether you're starting off or a seasoned pro, we'll be giving some advice, the knowledge that we have. And of course, you could use some of the existing equipment, which is good. And of course, if you have a webcam already, maybe some headphones and a microphone, decent microphone, and you're basically set to go. Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. But also, you need to have a little bit of passion and persistence. It took us 10 shows for us to get to this point to be able to talk to you about some of the things that we learned, right? And
That's right.
To be perfectly honest, we're still pretty green. It's like the first season of Star Trek The Next Generation where everyone hates each other still, and they're trying to figure out how to wear these weird space pajamas, right? But, we learned along the way, and, thanks to some great advice and also your comments, especially the experience from Matt, who is a 30-year broadcast veteran. He was in the previous show. We're going to put the link up here somewhere or in the description below. You got to listen to that show, watch that show. It's fantastic. And, we're that much more excited for our next 10 shows, which, will probably make up our season 2.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. This is our celebratory 10th podcast. Welcome.
Yes. So there's a lot to celebrate here. And there's also a lot for us to share with you because we're a little bit more experienced, and maybe you can also share some of the tips and tricks down below to help someone that's kind of on the fence, right? I mean, some of the things, our path is different. Your path will be different. So how we got here, we're going to share how we got here. And then hopefully with a little bit of your help, you can probably fill in the gaps that we might have missed. Not everyone comes from the same place. Not everyone has the same background as we do, especially Matt, who was awesome on the show.
Yeah.
I mean, he's been doing it for so long. I think that he should have a podcast. What do you think?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, he was, I think, he said he was retired for 10 years, but I think, with 10 years, technology has moved on so far. So you get to learn new things, but instinctively, his skill is still there. His voice is so good. But yeah, definitely, even with back in the day, remember there was radio broadcast, kind of reading commercials and stuff like that, and that was no video. There was just voice, video. I mean, the audio. And but with technology moving on, you're adding video on top as well. So with a veteran, 30 years, I mean, he need to maybe look into the video side of things, but his skill is still there. His knowledge of audio equipment is still there. So you can apply that to today's kind of podcasts and stuff like that. I think it's definitely knowledge that you can't, just suddenly happen. You need that kind of experience. So definitely. Yeah.
Yeah. At the end of the day, no matter how you look at video content or audio content, if you look at a video that has crappy audio, you'll probably tune out faster than if you were watching a crappy video with great audio. Like, most people will look away from their screen as they're doing something else and watching a YouTube video, but they're actually not watching the video. They're listening to that video. So if there's excessive echo or a poor quality experience, they're not going to want to watch. So I think that Matt needs to give himself a little more credit. I mean, his video was good, but his audio was fantastic. And I want him to know that if he's watching the show right now, I will subscribe to your podcast.
Definitely. Yeah. He's got so much knowledge, so much experience, and you learn and you take away from it a lot more than you expect. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So moving on with the show, let's take a little side note here. I mean, obviously there's going to be a lot of equipment that you might want to purchase, and I've noticed that you've discovered some new crypto debit cards. So what's that all about, man?
Yeah. So I've been searching around, and crypto debit cards is a fairly new thing. A lot of people have been asking me, hey, Winston, I've invested in crypto, but how do I take the money out? How do I spend it? Every time I try to, like, for example, sell, for example, you earn maybe 10, 100 or whatever dollars, then how do I take it out? So that's the thing. If you do take money out of your crypto earnings, remember, you might get taxed. So, and that's if you transfer it out from your platform, your crypto platform, exchange platform, into your bank. real bank. But then there's the tax implications and stuff like that. And
right.
also, it takes time. May take 3, 4, maybe a weeks, for it to transfer. So with some of the crypto platforms out there, they offer debit cards. These are top-up cards. These are not credit cards. These are, what you have in your portfolio is what you need to spend, right? So if you earned $100, you think, okay, I could take that out. Then a good way is applying for these crypto debit cards, and they only you can only spend what you have in your account. Not all countries will have or offer these crypto debit cards. I know that, for example, in Europe, there's a wide range of cards you can get. Again, those cards in Europe are not available in the US and vice versa. So I'm from UK, so I've checked out some of the UK debit cards, the crypto debit cards. I know that, for example, crypto.com is quite good because they, international, and Nexo.com is another one, which they do a credit card, based on the collateral, which is your crypto portfolio. And then CoinJar is another one from Australia/UK. So again, check your countries. Different countries have different card offerings, and but yeah, you can actually literally use your card and spend the earnings that you have from your crypto investment. So it's interesting.
Okay.
So I've applied for a couple of those, and I'm using one already from crypto.com, but the other two, Nexo and the other one, CoinJar, I'll be receiving them in the next couple of weeks. And hopefully I'll do some more shopping.
So let me get this straight for the viewers out there, for the listeners out there. So what you talked about a few podcasts ago, which was our crypto NFT show, a little bit more crypto, less NFT. You talked about Celsius. So Celsius is a place where you could actually take your crypto from your existing accounts, transfer it straight over with no loss because it's instant, and then just hold it. And have it in those accounts. So this next step that you're talking about, because Celsius doesn't have a debit card or a credit card, you transfer your assets out of Celsius to one of these other places which have a debit credit facility, so that you don't have to transfer fiat currency, do the conversion, and wait 3-4 days because it could go up, it could moon.
That's right. And
then you can spend it because the value of that crypto is as at that transaction.
That's true.
That transaction.
That's true.
So this is what you're talking about, is the fastest, most economical way to transfer out. And because those platforms, they don't. Now, are there any fees to transfer from these platforms to another platform to spend it? That would be my first question.
Yeah, generally there's no fees. The only fees that they have is when, of course, the conversion rate.
Okay.
And there's no transaction fees in terms of when you purchase something. But you got to be careful of, make sure that you don't, the debit cards versus the credit cards. There are two offerings. And Celsius, for example, believe it or not, in next, or could be this year, they're going to be offering a credit card.
Oh, neat.
Yeah.
I would love that.
And the credit card is based on, again, the collateral, the risk. The collateral is based on your portfolio. So if you have, say, example, 1 Bitcoin's worth of holdings, you could be your credit card could be up to half of that amount. So say, for example, right now 40,000, right? Bitcoin is worth 40,000. You have 1 Bitcoin. You can then use that as collateral, and it'll give you 50% worth at 0%.
Oh wow!
Right, so
that's
you get
fantastic.
like 20 grand on your credit card based on the collateral, which is your Bitcoin. But then you purchase stuff. And normally credit cards gives you like 30 days or 45 days and before the interest kicks in, right? But this one is 0 interest. Imagine that.
Holy
0
moly.
interest. Yeah.
So that could be kind of dangerous. So if we wanted to spend more money on audio gear and stuff like that and fancy $4,000 microphones, we could do that at a 0%. That's dangerous, man. That's so dangerous.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. But it's something that the credit card versus the debit card, right? So I'll go for the debit card because I know that I spend what I spend, and I just top up. Top up stuff which I need to. For example, if I need to buy something for $100, then I'll just top it up, sell my crypto, but top it up onto my debit card, right?
Okay,
so that's how it works.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. Well, if we're looking for more gear and we need to finance it because our podcast is getting too big and we have too many subscribers, we will be bringing the show via some sort of crypto platform because we don't have sponsors yet. But anyhow, let's jump right into the show, man. So I know that you've been kind of getting started with the podcasting. It's been a little bit different than the live stream thing. And I know that you have an interesting setup. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah. So with my live stream on my show, that I basically use gaming equipment because I do a lot of reviews. So I get a lot of gaming equipment to review. This is, for example, one of them. It's a Quadcast from HyperX. So it's a streaming kind of microphone. A lot of streamers, game streamers use it, and they have the RGB version now. And and this one, for example, the headset, I use this one. It's another HyperX one, a gaming headset. Gives me good sound, and also has a built-in mic, which is detachable, which is good. Okay, so I'll use this for all my audio as well. And these are great for gaming, for streaming, and things like that. Again, it's very different to the podcast. So Stephen will talk about that in a sec. But what else do I have? I use occasionally webcam. So I have a webcam here. There's USB webcam that gives me 1080p. USB plugs into your laptop. And occasionally there, of course, I use the Sony camera, which is basically a mirrorless camera, DSLR offerings. You can also, this is the Alpha 6400. A lot of people, I think, do a lot of that. It's 4K, but I usually turn it down to 1080p for streaming. Because you don't get many people streaming at 4K. It's ridiculous unless you have a gigabit internet line, stuff like that.
Yes,
and the other thing you need for that is if you don't have a webcam, you've got the digital camera, you connect that via HDMI to a capture device. And I have one here from Camlink or Elgato. Very simple. Again, USB interface. You plug that into your laptop. The HDMI cable goes from your camera to here. And you just load up OBS or Streamlabs, and then you got your mic, you got your headset, and you're way to go. So the streaming setup is slightly different, but you can use your existing streaming setup or gaming setup for podcasts. So right now I'm doing that right now. The audio is okay. It's not great in terms of podcast quality, but I think it's more than enough. And that's the whole thing about setting up the podcast. You can use your existing equipment, and then if you like the sound of it, keep using it. If you like the audio, again, keep using it, and unless you go next level. And this is where I think Stephen can kick in. What have you got?
Yeah. Well, let's touch base on some of the things that you talked about here. And the reason why gaming stuff is a certain quality to it is because it's an upgrade from internal audio cards, right? A lot of motherboards don't have great audio. It can be very noisy because it's inside the system. A lot of interference that you can eliminate simply by plugging in a USB audio device, such as your headset or the microphone that you have there. In fact, both pieces have distinct advantages. The headset that you have, all in one piece, you can turn your head, it's wireless. Feels like you're running around. You can also get a coffee, come back, don't have to take them down.
Sure.
You keep talking to your team. You can, camp, and like that works really well. Also, the microphone that you have there, now that we recently discovered that it has a 3.5 millimeter jack in it.
Oh yeah,
you can actually now use that for podcasting because there's something called miking technique. So you can't tell that your miking technique is bang on unless you can actually monitor directly from the microphone. So by being able to do that, you can definitely use a condenser gamer microphone. It's just that when you start turning it up, it's going to be a little bit more noisy than something that is a dynamic microphone. And we'll get to that in a little bit. But they're just condenser microphones are just easier to power, and that's why you find them in a lot of gaming microphones. But at the same time, you're also mixing in gaming audio. So the background noise in your own room doesn't actually matter because you've got gunfire going on.
That's true.
You've got music going on. Yeah. So it's less of an issue. As long as the other party, as long as the people in your team can hear you, you're good to go.
Yeah.
And because that condenser microphone has a certain character to it, it sounds a lot like what you would hear in Team Fortress. A little bit more flat of a sound. It sounds like it's coming through a radio. Right. It works perfectly. It's intelligible for the vocal audio. You're not playing guitars in front of it.
Yeah,
You're not doing any of those things, right?
It's designed
And
for
then-
gaming and occasional streaming. And one thing I need to mention is like a lot of the webcams and like the headsets, if you don't have the microphone, when you do podcasts or recording, make sure you turn these microphones off, because otherwise you get a lot of echo, right? So built-in webcams will have internal audio.
That's right.
Headsets will have audio. So make sure make sure you turn those microphones off and only have one microphone on, which is this one right here. Otherwise you get a lot of echoes and stuff like that. But yeah, definitely, like all these ones I have for gaming, streaming, it's USB. And
yes.
when I'm talking about USB, that's great for computers. That's great, yeah, because you just plug it in and away you go. But when you're doing high quality audio podcasts and stuff like that, Stephen, you're talking about the 3.5 millimeter jack, right? That's still a thing, right?
Yeah, like one of the things about higher quality audio is that you rarely ever find someone in the studio with a Bluetooth, USB, or wireless headset. And the reason why, and it's a very, very simple explanation, is that a wireless setup will have inherently a latency or a lag, so you can't direct monitor in real time. So let's just say that you're more advanced. You would have maybe some plugins on your audio stream for routing the audio. I'm not at that point where I would do that. I prefer hardware knobs and everything like that. But if you are someone like another YouTube celebrity and podcaster, Epos Vox, he has an amazing voice. He also has such knowledge in this space that I couldn't even catch up to him. He's really into the setups and everything, and he's willing to teach. So if we'll put a link to his channel so that we give him a little bit of love. But he's someone that is willing to teach these things if you want to get super duper nerdy. But for us, we just want the voice, we want the quality, and we want it out there as soon as possible. So we tend to just rely on our hardware. So some of the things that are very simple to do is just to wire your setup up. So if the first upgrade that I would do to Winston's setup would obviously be ditching the gaming headset and just plugging in a 3.5 millimeter set of studio monitor headphones into the Quadcast that he has there. The Quadcast actually allows direct monitoring, which means that if he's working on his microphone technique, so let's just say that he wants to sound like he's, like Winamp, it really kicks, like stuff like that. He can actually hear when he's peeking out, and he can back off when he's getting super excited, so he doesn't kill off his audience.
That's
right?
true. That's true.
And because he's able to hear that, he can make the adjustments necessary to have a great audio experience both for himself, because he can hear what he's hearing, and for you, because now he's hearing what you're hearing. So that would be my first step with some of these USB mics. They do have direct mic monitoring. And in terms of monitor headphones, they're really easy to spot. They're actually super boring. A set of headphones that look like this look cheap, but they're actually monitor style headphones.
Is that a Sony?
It's a Sony. It's based on a very classic headphone called the MDR7502, which is a studio monitor headphone. Uses similar drivers, almost the same design. And the secret is a convertible 3.5 millimeter jack, or you can just put it into a 1/4-inch jack, which is what you'll find in most studio environments, right? So by using something like this, what it allows you to hear is, because the response is flat, you're not going to hear a ton of bass. You're not going to hear a ton of treble. You're going to hear exactly what the audio sounds like. So if there's anything weird in the stream, a humming, a hissing, or anything like that, you can make adjustments, or you can attempt to make adjustments to treat your room, or go to a quieter room if you really, really need to, because that experience is being translated directly to the audience, right? Yeah. So, these are things that help out with the audio, because, like primarily people would listen to a YouTube video more than they would watch, because they turn away to come back when you make a point, come back. It's kind of how it works. And then they roll back to see what they missed, right? So that's why, having webcams, like anything is better than your laptop webcam. They're mostly 720p and they look like a potato, and most of them look up at your nose or down at you, which is not what you want. So the webcam that Winston had there. Which model did you have there?
This
It's a Logitech, right?
No, this is based on a Logitech, but it's basically an Asus one.
Okay.
That came with the laptop, but any Logitech ones is good enough. I mean, I'm using a Logitech as well in my previous one. So
this one is very familiar. This is the C920. This is old. This is about 10 or 12 years old. It's 1080p, has Zeiss optics. This is when they were being fancy. And this is great. This is a fantastic camera. It's still the same technology as it is today because, quite honestly, for a camera this small, you really can't put a bigger sensor in there. I know there's a lot higher quality cameras out there, and Winston just touched on that. But having something like this is more than adequate if you light the room correctly. And Winston actually has a key light over there as well, too.
One of these. Yep.
Exactly.
And this one you can get from eBay, Amazon. Look at that. It's got the dial to go dim.
Yeah.
And also a different color. You can go more yellow, more blue.
Ooh, RGB.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you just, again, this is it's got a clamp here, but I can just put that on the table, give me that extra light. But yeah, you can use a ring light as well and stuff like that, or get a tripod, put these lamps on. But these are cheap. They're I think $20-$30 or something like that.
A ring light's fantastic because it gives you that catch light in your eyes, like you're alive.
Yeah.
Right? Because if your eyes are dark, it's like, are you alive? Are you okay back there?
See that there?
Like,
See the
what's
light
going on
in my eyes?
See? Yeah. It's right there. So you're alive. It's like I'm watching you. I know you're there. And that's engagement, right? So as you start to, like move up from the audio, you've taken care of the audio. Winston's right. You definitely work on your video. There are capture cards on Amazon, and I have a couple of favorites. I'll put them in the description for you. But basically, they cost anywhere between $25 to $50. They'll do the trick. They'll take your DSLR camera that you haven't used in ages because you take your phone with you. But because they have such a huge sensor, even in a dark room, they'll look so much better than the webcam. And the Cam Link is one of those things that's on the higher end. That's about $100, right?
$100, yeah.
Yeah. So $100, you get a lot of good compatibility. You get good compatibility with different frame rates and everything like that. That one's 1080p too, right?
1080p, yeah. 60 frames per second, I believe.
Yes. So you're getting to get smoother motion.
Yeah. So the HDMI comes from the camera to here, and that goes straight into your computer. So simple as that.
So that's all you really need to get better quality audio. You put it on a tripod, you point it at your face, and you get good quality. I am running a A7 III, Sony A7 III, which is, of course, a full frame sensor. And I'm running it through something called it's also a capture card, but it's a switcher. It's called the Blackmagic A10 Mini Pro. And it's something that allows us to record the stream if I wanted to, but I can also have multiple camera angles with multiple cameras. So it's kind of something that grows with you, but it's also on the more expensive end. I mean, you're talking about 5 times. This thing was actually 8 times the price when I got it. It's almost $1,000. But at the time I was at the beginning of the pandemic, we had a lot of organizations that failed to make that transition or didn't know how to make that transition to online. So I use this a lot to help people out to get their karate classes, church, whatever, online. With
the option for multiple cameras, it means that you could do interesting videos, right? For example, if you had that switcher, this is a webcam that could be focused on, say, a product underneath here. And then you have another camera which is, connected up to the same thing, your A10 Mini Pro. I could just switch between different camera modes, different camera scenes. Right. So I could say, hey, check this out, switch the camera, and then you'll see the product, and I'll switch over, you'll see me. So it's a lot of different types of options and features you can use, but that's more in the advanced side. Once you get to the grips of the basics, you could go on to the advanced, but definitely lots of interesting equipment out there. And we're talking about some of the audio headphones that you're talking about for monitoring. Again, you mentioned that Sony headphones, and you have no bass, no treble, stuff like that, which is great for monitoring. And so the advice right there: don't get yourself some heavy bass, the Mr. Beats, that kind of stuff, because then the heavy bass.
Don't diss Dr. Dre. Dr. Dre.
Yeah, Dr. Dre.
is listening.
Yeah, so the bass would be already enhanced. So you're listening to audio which is already bass enhanced, and it doesn't give you the true sound, right?
That's right. You're listening to something that's basically mixed already in your head, and that's not the sound that you want. You need something that strips away all of the layers. You want exactly what you're hearing so that you can correct any mistakes before it heads out to your audience that might have a bass enhanced headphone, that might not be listening on a set of studio monitors, that might have a set of speakers that are lower quality, that accentuate some part of your track, some part of your podcast that might be an interference sounding thing, because speakers do act really funny. I mean, on YouTube, when you have really good quality audio, that's great, but someone out there is going to have this weird setup that's just going to pick up something that you might not have heard. It's hard to get everything right, but you can come up the middle as much as you can by using a set of studio monitors. At least that way you can ensure that 80% of the audience or 90% of the audience is well taken care of. Now, if you're looking at moving up in the audio space, and I do recommend that you move up in audio first rather than in the video. Again, I advocated getting a cheap capture card that at least shows your face, using the old DSLR that maybe your dad has that he never uses again. Maybe you have a DSLR that you don't use because your iPhone or your Android phone takes such amazing pictures, and they really do. Then the next step is to actually get something that plugs into an XLR microphone and an interface. Now, you can't just plug in an XLR microphone or professional microphone into your laptop. You're going to need something called a USB interface. And the most basic ones that I've come across are these guys right here.
Yeah, you showed me that. And does that work with all XLR kind of mics?
This is a good question, Winston, because something like this is going to help you bridge the gap between there's two types of mics out there, condenser or dynamic. Condenser microphones typically are more sensitive. So if you were using this with a condenser microphone, you would actually have really good results because it would be able to power it no problem without any preamplifier or anything. That's why gaming microphones are condensers, because they take less power. You don't need the high quality preamps or anything like that. That's why they're able to build more RGB into them for the same price, right? RGBs are expensive, right? Sometimes. So having something like this in a condenser microphone, and if you have a quiet room, a condenser microphone is great because you don't need a lot of power to power it. And you'll typically be able to tell a condenser microphone from other microphones by the fact that they have a huge diaphragm in it, like this little disc that picks up your audio, your sound. And it requires something called phantom power. This supplies phantom power, and it also powers the mic, and it also allows you to direct monitor because there's a headphone input at the bottom, and also gain control up here. So you won't be maxing this out.
Okay.
Very simple. Something like this, probably about $100 or less. This is an MXL. There are other higher quality ones made by Shure. But this one is actually a pretty good brand. MXL makes a lot of different microphones, and they do a great job. Now, the condenser microphones have a downside. They are actually quite loud. Not loud, but as in noisy. Noisy. So what happens is that it picks up the room tone. It picks up all the sound in your room. Because you're doing a podcast for spoken word, you don't have music in the background or your squad with gunfire covering your fridge going off.
Right. I get you.
Right? That's why, exactly, right? So that's why gaming microphones and gaming headsets, having a quiet room isn't that big of a deal. So if you want a quieter room without any extra equipment, your next step is to go to a dynamic microphone. So something like this is a dynamic microphone. This is called the SM57. This microphone retails.
Which brand?
And this is from the American company called Shure. This is also the company that makes my microphone, and they're not sponsoring us. I just happen to like this microphone. This is the SM7B. This is another legendary microphone that's based on the microphone that Michael Jackson used to record many of his albums, including Thriller.
So
and we talked about that in our last podcast.
Thrilling to use?
What's that?
Is it thrilling to use?
It is thrilling to use. I definitely think it's bad in a good way. But this microphone here is what we would call one of our desert island microphones. If you are a audio person and you could only take one microphone to do your job to any site, you would take this one. This is called the Shure SM57. And hidden underneath this mic muff
Yeah.
is a microphone that will go through a wall and still work.
But the thing is, will that pick up a load of noise externally, external noise?
One of the nice things about this pickup pattern is that it is geared towards only here.
Oh, right in the front, right here.
Right in the front.
Okay.
So you have to go close up or be talking directly into the front of the microphone.
Right.
On the sides and on the back and around it, doesn't have really great pickup. Even on this microphone, when I move to the side, Winston, and I'm just kind of
right
to you, I fall right off. And I'm also holding on the phone.
Yeah, it's kind of like muffled and away of miles away.
Right? So the fact that it sounds like you're miles away means that it's minimized the amount of noise that is being made by your room. So it doesn't really matter as much. Downsides.
Right.
This microphone requires quite a bit of power, right? We're not talking about phantom power because dynamic microphones don't require phantom power. They require gain, which is a different kind of power. Right. And basically it's like an amplifier, right? So you need an amplifier to drive this. Now, something tiny like this
could help.
Will not put out enough power.
Oh, wouldn't it?
It won't because it'll still be too quiet.
Okay.
Even if I turn it all the way up, it's going to get super noisy. So something like this simply doesn't have the headroom or clean enough amplifiers inside to make it sound good.
Because that is not a preamp. That's just a converter, right?
No, it's a preamp inside. It's just that the preamps aren't good enough to drive something that requires, something like this.
Oh, right. So dynamic. Okay. So you need something else on to give you that extra boost. Is that right?
That's right. So there's two paths that you can take. This is a great sounding microphone if you can power it. It sounds awesome. I think we were demoing it off camera and you're like, ooh, that's a good sound. I'm like, I know it's a good sound, right? So I can't wait for you to have this next week.
Yeah.
So there's two paths. Number one, the industry has thought of things that help devices like this, right? Because the more clean gain that you can feed your interface, the better your microphone's just going to sound. It just opens it right up.
Right.
So devices like this is called a mic actuator or a preamplifier or a microphone exciter or something. Like there's lots of names for this, but this gives a good 28 decibels of clean gain.
Right. You mentioned clean gain. That means there's no static, no hissing, just nice clean power, like you mentioned.
Yeah.
To give that microphone a boost.
Yes.
Okay. But does that require power? How does it get the power? Where does the power come from?
This microphone, I mentioned that it doesn't require phantom power.
Right.
Phantom power is basically a voltage that's sent through the signal to power the microphone.
Yeah.
That dynamic mics don't use, but condensers do.
Okay.
This takes phantom power from the interface. So it'll recognize the phantom power that's being pushed through this little guy, and it'll power this.
I get you. Right.
So this is kind of a roundabout way to power a dynamic mic. Is it a good idea? I don't know. It's a little bit more complex. However, the next step up is to get a audio interface that has enough gain. Now, something like this will require about, I think it's 50 decibels of gain. Something like this. This is called a USB audio interface. So this is like a box, basically, that has good amplifiers inside, gain control, XLR inputs, and everything like that. Phantom power if you need it.
Yeah, I've seen these available. I didn't know what they were. I thought they were just for, you go into the audio shop and they say, yeah, you get this preamp thing for your audio. I'm thinking, why the hell do I need a preamp for? But now I understand. You need that clean gain, right? That boost. Okay.
You also need something outside of the computer box and also outside your laptop. This is the same principle as your USB condenser microphone, your quadcast, as well as your headset. It takes all of the audio processing outside a noisy environment like the inside of a PC or the inside of a laptop and externalizes it. All the processing is done here.
And
it's super clean.
And then all you get is the audio rather than all the interference that go with it, right?
All the noise. That's right. So something like this, which is a higher end interface that sells for about 200 US, 250 Canadian, has 60 decibels of clean gain. That means I can take this dial, I can crank it all the way up.
Right.
No problem. The noise floor is very low. So if I needed to do that, I could. But in this case, this microphone will run correctly at this level.
Oh, and you plug that microphone strictly into that preamp
That's
box. Right. And then
that means that you don't need.
And then the audio
this.
output comes out of the box itself.
That's right. It goes through USB, and then that way, because you have a headphone jack right here, you can monitor yourself directly.
I get you.
Now you can tell whether or not, that guy in the stream, your audio sucks. It sounds like, you can verify whether or not it's him or it's you.
Right. I get you.
Right?
I get you.
Because you can hear it directly, right? It's like, no way, man. Yeah. It sounds good.
So that box is a higher end kind of external box which you can plug in, and then the thing that you showed me, the red part, is just basically a portable kind of
This is a inline, mic actuator or it's an inline amplifier powered by phantom power. I know there's a lot of jargon and terms, but just basically this boosts the mic signal so that a lower end interface can actually pick up the audio and utilize it in your PC. This is a very cheap way for you to, or they're not cheap. I mean, something like this you would leave in your toolbox.
Yeah.
About 129 Canadian. And this, even if you had this and you use this with any microphone, it would still sound better because it opens up the microphone up. Adding this to this simply means that I can just turn this knob all the way down.
Right. Okay.
So it's even cleaner.
Less noise. But the guys, listen. When we say noise, it's not actual noise as in like noise, background noise. We're talking noise as in interference, electrical interference, the hisses and the hums. I'll give you an example. I had an old school webcam, right? So I'm holding this webcam, I'm filming an exhibition somewhere, and it had a built-in mic, right? So it was a time when we had to go to this I think it was a brand which they make monitors, and as soon as my camera went near a monitor where they had a lot of LEDs and electrical things running around, I couldn't hear it. It's only when we did post-production, editing, that what's that humming noise? Where'd that come from? And this is where
60 hertz hum.
This is 60 hertz. The monitor, right back then.
Yep.
And you realize that, hey, this is important when Stephen mentioned about having headphones, right, to monitor the sound while you're recording, and then also with your equipment there, it reduces those electrical interference, which means those hissing and humming sounds. So some advice, some information for you guys. All right.
It's basically like if you're into computers and you've heard of something called overclocking, it's basically like overclocking your preamps. When you start to overclock your preamps, they get hot, they start to produce noise or heat, and you need to cool them down, or you need to turn back the clock speed.
Right.
So in this case, this device right here doesn't overclock. It actually produces more gain so that your preamps don't have to be overclocked as much, so you don't get
your
all
voltage.
The noise.
Okay.
That's right. That's right. So you're upping the voltage to get cleaner gain. That's right.
Right. Okay. So tell me how your new mic, tell us a little bit more about your new mic and how is it plugged in?
Well, this microphone is plugged into a USB audio interface. It's also plugged into another preamplifier. Now, it's not this. It's a bigger version of this. It's basically rack mountable.
Oh.
And the interface that I'm using is one that is made by Rode, which is a great Australian company. This thing's manufactured in Australia, or at least assembled there. And I love Rode microphones. They're fantastic products. They're great value. And you might be someone that chooses a Rode microphone as your first microphone. I know I myself, way back when YouTube was just starting out, and this is like 2002, 2003, 4, the first company that ever helped me was Rode. They realized in the beginning that in order for them to be the source for all YouTubers to go to for their audio, because it's something that they are passionate about, but YouTubers back then were not. They would rather have a better picture than audio, and you get all the horrible sounding YouTube videos back then. I reached out to them because I realized that, based on all the comments, that something had to be done with my audio. So they actually sent me a shotgun microphone, and they said, here's something that'll improve your audio for you. Let me know how you love it. And that was my first interaction with Rode. They really cared. Since then, I've used their lavalier mics for video recording. I've used their shotgun microphones. I've even used some of their on-camera microphones. And they're a great choice if you want to increase the quality of your audio, for sure.
Yeah.
They make a ton of different devices, even a device, a USB microphone that plugs directly in without an audio interface.
Yeah, I've seen that.
So if you're starting out, there's something called the NT-USB and the NT-USB Mini. These are, and I hate, it's mainly because I've kept an eye on Rode because they've been so good to the YouTube community. These two microphones just plug straight in. They're like your Quadcast, but they're built to actually accentuate the human voice. They're for spoken word.
Oh, so definitely designed
microphones
for podcasters and
exactly.
Yeah.
And the NT-USB is about the same size as yours. You can still put it on the boom arm, but the NT-USB Mini is fantastic because now you can take it on the road because it's smaller.
It just clips onto your shirt?
No, it's a little tiny microphone that folds flat.
Oh,
so
okay.
I've noticed recently that this microphone has actually been in a lot of different podcasts because it's small enough to put in a tiny box to mail to them to use and then mail it back.
Oh, right.
Because you get way better audio quality because you just plug it in, you turn the levels up, and that's all you need to do with it. It's really simple. So if you're looking for something less expensive, and again, the NT-USB Mini is probably the entry level that I would pick, and it's definitely the voice of a lot of different podcasts out there because that's what they send to guests to use. It's 129 Canadian. It's really affordable.
Oh, that's affordable. Yeah, that's really cheap.
Yeah. But if you have a setup where you can definitely put a boom arm and everything up there, getting something that is XLR and with an audio interface is definitely going to give you an increase in quality and performance. So there's two sides of the coin. The NT-USB is 129. Getting a basic audio interface, getting an XLR mic, a boom arm, and also a cable, you're probably looking at about $300 to $400.
Right. That's
something that works together.
Yeah, I mean, this equipment that you mentioned for that price will, it'll last you at least a good couple of years, right? And then once you move on, once you build up your audience and you think, okay, we need some better audio or better, whatever, then you could just upgrade and stuff like that, which is, definitely.
And if you've noticed, I haven't even mentioned a computer. The computer doesn't really matter. The computer just sits there and basically sends the signal, right?
Yeah.
So if your computer can run Counter-Strike, it probably can do a podcast, no problem.
Yeah.
And Counter-Strike has very low system requirements these days.
All right. So it's like, all the equipment that we use, it doesn't have to be expensive. I mean, I'm right now, I'm using existing gaming equipment, right? Gaming microphone, streaming microphone. I'm using a gaming headset. I'm using, sometimes I'm using the webcam, or I'm using the camera. It's basically equipment that you have already. And put them into
use what you have.
Yeah, and then once you get the streams going up and running, and then you realize, okay, maybe I need a better mic, better audio, better headset, whatever. Then you can go in to research a little bit more. But definitely, you don't have to spend thousands. The people who spend thousands are people who's been in the industry for a while. They require a certain specific attribute in terms of like audio or video. Then they go for that. But
or you're an enthusiast, right? It's okay to spend thousands of dollars on a PC, right? A lot of modders basically they built a PC, and quite honestly,
we need RGB.
Don't really game on it.
We need RGB.
They just build the PC.
Yeah,
and they put in RGB, right?
RGB is expensive.
So those, all the piping, all the water cooling and everything, it's super expensive. Like I said, it's all about getting the cleanest possible sound. And, let your audience, give you the comments. I mean, the first thing that they might notice is there's a hum in the background. How do I fix that? Okay, well, I can do some treatment or I can move into the closet. No problem. Next. We hear this thing in the background. Can you fix that no problem? Some people might not be as nice about those comments, but they're ultimately right. They listened to the whole podcast, and the only thing that they had feedback on was this one negative point. They didn't even mention the content. They clearly liked that.
Yeah, that's true. And talking about that, remember, look at Steven's mic right now. He's using a brand new Shure, all the nice sound coming out of his voice. Now, if you look at our previous podcasts, you'll notice he was using the Rode right?
I was using the Rode NT1, and that
right.
Rode microphone. You might have heard a lot of background noise, and we couldn't blame Winston for his fridge. It was probably this fan right up here, because it was coming from my room.
My fridge is still running. It's been nice.
Yeah, I have lights here, and those are 60 hertz. It picks up all of those sounds. So I do apologize for the last 8 episodes, because number 9 was really good. But like, if you're looking at something like this, you basically buy it once, you'll never buy it again if you can afford it. This is a $519 Canadian microphone that is used throughout the podcast industry because of the quality of the sound, because of the highly recognizable tone. And you know what? I just like the way that my voice sounds on it. It makes me feel more confident when I'm talking on this,
sexy.
It sounds more sexy. It's the same microphone that Michael Jackson, Tom Petty, and some other high profile stars have actually recorded on. They can record on any microphone in the world. Michael Jackson can record on a $10,000 microphone. Why was he using this? Because it gave him the sound that Thriller needed, right? And I like the sound that comes from this for our podcast, and I hope you do too.
And with that said, this podcast was brought to you by... Yes, we're looking for sponsors. So if you like our content, of course, hit us up. Our email address, it's ourpodcastshow@gmail.com. And of course, share your comments and leave it down below. All right. So software is just as important. So what do we use, Stephen, for our podcast?
Well, let's look at the playing field first. The first thing that you could do with a podcast is, if you're a single person, you can just turn on any audio recorder on your PC and just record. Bare bones, very basic. Just go for it, right?
Right.
One of the software tools that we use in this show, and I know that a lot of people don't use it either because they just want to wing it, is actually a rundown. And we do that through Google Docs.
Yeah.
So
Google
me and
Docs.
you talk about the show, what we want to do. We even have a spreadsheet of shows and ideas that we've come across, and we just write them all down. And we just literally say, okay, well, I feel passionate about this. I'm going to put the show together today. Okay, cool. And then we write down all the points that we want to make. We make sure that we have interesting links and information on there so that we can have a 55-minute conversation about everything.
Yeah,
that's true.
That's true. Because if you just wing it and blabble on, as you can go off the point, and the show becomes something totally different. You don't want that, because then it makes your audience lose its interest, because you're talking about one thing and you skip and you move on to something else and you go back, and it loses the audience, right? And you think, well, what's he talking about? So you have a good rundown. I think that works. I mean, I never used to have a rundown myself, to be honest with you. The reason why I did live streams, because live stream is again totally different, because live stream, it's what's happening right now. And a situation can change. You're interacting with live audience, so that's a different concept altogether. But when you're doing a podcast and you're talking about a particular subject and you have guests, you really want to stick to the point, stick to the actual subject, because then it gives more focus on the actual topic.
That's right.
Yeah.
As Mr. Miyagi says, focus, Daniel-san. Indeed.
Wax on, wax off.
So once you have a really good rundown and everything, you can record your show and you'll nail all your points, and it'll just save you time, because now you don't have to keep cutting. You know what's coming up next. The second thing is that once you start getting guests, like me and you, we are doing a 2-person podcast, but we're not in the same city. Okay, what do you do about that? How do we make a audio or video podcast? Well, there's a few different platforms out there. There's Riverside FM is the one that we actually landed on, mainly because it was a platform that allowed us to upload 4K video podcasts with high quality audio. And it's, this has been something that has worked and sometimes not worked, but the ability to record a localized copy of the recording in high quality. So right now, Riverside in this browser window is recording my video feed in 4K or whatever I'm sending it at. I think it's 1080p right now. And same with Winston. It's literally recording the video exactly as it is. What we see on the screen on each other is maybe 480p. That's just for saving bandwidth. The audio track is also recorded at as high a quality as possible, probably 48 kilohertz. And then after the podcast is done, after we hit the end button, it's going to take all those pieces and upload them to the cloud. And then it's going to assemble the entire show for us in the highest possible quality that we can upload to YouTube. And it's going to look great and it's going to sound great. It also has a little bit of noise cancellation and echo cancellation that we can put in there. It really helps out with the speed of our ability to create a podcast, an engaging podcast. And in conjunction with our rundowns, it allows us to figure out what parts of the podcast that you really love. Maybe you don't want to hear about Winston shopping, but maybe you want to hear more about crypto, right? And then we would see a spike, and we would know that we need to come up with another crypto show.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, definitely.
So it's very important.
Okay.
The second, there's a couple other really great platforms as well too. Squadcast is one that I played with very early on in the pandemic. And it was something that we were trying to figure out. And this is me using it on a national tech radio show, trying to figure out how we get all the guests together, how we get all the hosts together. And that audio platform was actually extremely good. It did have extremely high quality audio. It wasn't video quite yet, but it was good enough for us to record segments, assemble everything, and then upload the entire show to a radio station. So something like that is really good. Since then, they've developed a video product as well too. It's very similar to Riverside, but it costs a whole lot more money, and it does have Dolby enhancements in it.
Right.
That they were working on. So if you want something that's a little bit more upscale than Riverside.fm, which is what we're using, that's something to consider. It is more money though.
Yeah.
I think we're paying about $24 a month, and it's okay for us. We get 15 hours of recording, right?
And plus
Which
you
is
get
great.
like these tech support required and stuff like that.
Tech support is
and
great.
You get feedback.
And it's coming quite handy because we've had some quirks. And, keep in mind Riverside.fm as well as all these platforms, their video is new for them. Audio was first. So the fact that, they're trying to integrate both pieces together and it's not like Zoom, it's higher quality is definitely a task that is not normal for the space, right? This remote recording is actually quite new at the consumer prosumer level. And then finally, another platform that I've discovered that kind of, I don't know, it's a little bit of everything, is Iris.fm. Iris.fm basically has 1080p recordings, not 4K like Riverside.fm. And then the audio quality is all right. It's not quite, at least what I've heard, it's not quite the same as Squadcast. It's about the same as Riverside. So
they're
the
cheaper?
pricing, they're a little bit cheaper because of the features that are taken away. They have yearly plans as well too.
All right.
So as you move up and you want to incorporate more guests and stuff like that, there is a feature on Riverside that actually no, it's not a Riverside feature. On Squadcast and on Iris.fm, there is a feature that I wish we had, and that's a scheduling feature.
Oh, scheduling. Okay.
So we can actually set up the podcast in advance. And we can actually send out invites to everyone that's going to participate, and then everyone jumps in at the right time. I wish Riverside had that, but because it's just you and me, and when we have a guest, we can actually have them pop in when we're online,
right?
And we can run that show like we have with Matt. It's okay, but if you're booking a lot of guests, I think that the next logical step for us would be up to Squadcast for sure.
Yeah. Well, yeah. So again, different platforms have different features. Basically, look at what's best for you based on your budget. You don't want to go all into professional platform when you could just have like you speaking to one guest or your buddy. So you don't really need that kind of high end platform. But yeah, definitely something which you can afford and easy to use, easy to set up, and hassle free. A lot of people, I know, especially you guys out there, Streamlabs, OBS are the most kind of popular streaming platforms, and the reason why they say that is because a lot of game streamers use it, right? And again, very similar, but those platforms are more video, right? Because they're streaming gaming content, playing the game and you're streaming that. So the audio, like Stephen said, all you need is a standard like gaming, streaming mic, whatever, and then where you go. Again, very similar. I use OBS Studios and Streamlabs myself for my show because it's a live show. And it's easy for me to switch screens and things like that. And adding content, those little graphic stuff is very easy to use.
Lower
that.
thirds.
And if you know how to use that kind of platform, again, the Riverside and the stream the other ones. What's it called? StreamYard? Is it Squadcast?
Iris.fm, Squadcast, Riverside.fm are the three kind of leaders. They're mentioned a lot in the podcast space, mainly because of the tools and everything, and the quality as well too. I think we're leaving out one very big option for everyone, and that's the fact that you can also stream live on YouTube.
Oh, yeah, okay. Yeah, that's true. That's true. You can.
Yeah.
And remember, live is totally different again because you could you could have mistakes. You could speak in some stuff. You're swearing or whatever. You could. I need to cut that out. But then you remember, live is something that I think you need practice on because it's not. Some people are camera shy, right? You got to be looking at your camera all the time, right? If you're doing live, you can't be just like. Yeah. Okay. You got to look at the camera,
and you
got to interact with the audience.
You moved away from the mic too.
That's right. You're moving away. Yeah, exactly. So you got to look at your camera. You got to look at interact with the audience. And the only thing with live is that when you have camera issues or your sound issue, it cuts off, which is unfortunate because it's live. And I've had experiences with other streaming platforms, StreamYard. Other streamers use it, and everything's record. No, everything's on record. You can actually option to record, but when you're live, say the host camera cuts off or my camera cuts off for some reason, it's you see everything, right? The camera doesn't shift. You just see a blank page or blank camera window where the guest was. So with that. You get the hassle. I won't say it's hassle. It's just because it's live. There's not a lot you could do about that. But with recording platforms like podcast platforms like Riverside and things like that, like Stephen mentioned, everything's recorded locally, right? And then it gets uploaded in the cloud, and everything gets all stitched up. And that I find really, really good because then I don't have to worry about if my camera gets cut off, right? The recording is still happening. With Streamlabs, if it gets cut off, or the other platforms, the live streaming platforms, it gets off. That's it. You have to restart again.
You're absolutely right. I think that one of the things that we wanted to make sure was that we can always produce a quality show. And again, we're technically live. We're talking to you guys with a rundown in front of us. We're making sure that we're making all the points that you might find interesting, and we're trying to make the show about an hour. And we've been hitting that pretty consistently. And one of the superpowers of these types of platforms is the fact that they're taking all the quality, they're leaving it locally with us so that we can transfer it after we've hit the stop button. And this is not dissimilar to what a lot of broadcast organizations do. They'll send people a microphone and a camera. They'll show them how to set it up. They'll record that entire session, and then they'll send it back to the station to edit and air. Only we're doing it in real time, and this is such a time saver.
Oh yeah, definitely, yeah. I mean, all my live shows, I don't edit. There's no point editing.
Yeah.
It's just because it's live. You want to get the reactions from the crowd, from the live audience, and your the reaction. They're reaction videos, right?
Yeah.
So you see like reaction live stream. So that's the whole part.
It's a different energy for sure.
Yeah,
it's almost like the audience is kind of like, I wonder if he's going to screw up next. What's going to happen next? There's that anticipation. There's some drama and suspense, right? Whereas it's a little more casual. We can have a little bit more fun, but we're also staying on topic.
Oh yeah, definitely. All right. So with that software, you know a little bit about software. I do a little bit of research, but of course, what about some of the equipment that you could actually try to buy, or also previously owned and used equipment? Because I myself, I've used previously owned equipment. I know, for example, one of these high-end Sennheiser products cost me like $800, $900. I was able to get a half price.
Totally worth it.
And definitely worth it, yeah.
Definitely worth it.
But I actually bought a half price because it was previously owned. It wasn't in a bad shape. It was just that the guy decided to upgrade to an even better, more expensive upgrade, right? So he's got this spare one, which he doesn't use anymore. Yeah. It's working perfectly. So I thought, okay, I'll have it. He says, okay, I'll give me half price. Okay, fine.
There is absolutely, you're right. There is both a monetary and also an experience level of being able to purchase used or even rent, because renting and buying used is a lot cheaper than buying new, figuring out that you didn't want it and now the return period is over. You have the ability to learn what these things do. You compare, figure, like even all these mics that we're talking about, one mic might work better for your voice than others.
True.
I happen to have found my soulmate here in the microphone. I like this way this sounds. But if there's another microphone that works for your voice better, you would never find it if you just bought it and stuck with it. One of the nice things in Canada is that we have exceptional music stores like Tom Lee Music and also Long McQuaid. I used to rent band instruments from them when I was in band in high school. And I realized that, hey, you know what? They have a great use section because like you and me, we go through equipment and we experiment. We figure out what works for us and what doesn't. We can't just rely on the reviews sometimes because audio and this interface that we're having with the microphone and close miking and trying to figure out how it works, you can't actually you can give people an idea of what that would be like on a video, but until someone actually puts the microphone on their boom stand and tries it out, it's not the same experience, right? So it's like driving a car, right? You can watch the review, but when you get to the showroom, it's going to feel a certain way. You might not even like it.
Yeah,
right?
and it's like buying clothes. I mean, this whole point is having a change room is you can see the fit.
That's right.
One fit works nice on me. It might not fit on you, right? And jeans and cutting.
That's right.
The different types of cutting. It looks good on one person. It might look good on another person, right?
I am not BTS slender. I will never look good in any of their outfits. I'll tell you that. I will look really weird. But, because you have the ability to try out all this equipment, rent it maybe, you know what? It might even work better for you to rent it once a week, something new to try. Right. As a beginning podcaster, you can rent a high-end microphone for a reasonable price. You can rent an audio interface. You can even rent it for an entire month with some of these places, just like I did with my $2,000 saxophone, right? You can rent it for the year. It was way cheaper than buying it, and it worked out for me. So go to these places. They even have great use sections. Right now, like the microphone and everything, some of the things that we're putting together for Winston for his setup actually came from Long McQuaid. And as a result, we're getting way more value than we would have going new because we know these things work. We know they sound awesome. We were able to demonstrate them to each other. And next week is going to be Winston's debut. He's going to be dropping it like it's hot with his brand new mic and interface. I can't wait. I can't wait.
Yeah,
so,
we'll see. Yeah.
And that's, that's going to be awesome. I can't wait. I'm so happy for you. I'm so happy.
Yeah. Well, again, audio equipment is one section in with Matt and yourself, Stephen, and you're talking about your audio equipment, and you two were just like so like in you're in your oils, it was literally like there's no stopping you two, and there's me in the background going, what the hell are you talking about? Preamps.
I know enough to get into trouble. That's all.
But yeah, definitely something that it's opened my eyes. It's like photography because I have no clue, right? With photography, all I know is this camera is good price. It gives me the 4K I need, audio out, blah blah blah. That's all I need, right? But then again, it's
it's the work back, right? It's the end result. It's like you listen to an album. How did they get that sound? You look at all the equipment that they got, but there's actually more to it than that. So working back what you want, the sound that you want, that's one way to do it. If you can't afford it, that's fine. You start a little bit lower on the totem pole. You go with something that sounds like it. And there's many, many different ways to do it, right? So try things, experiment. It's part of the fun of any hobby or any profession is that you get to try brand new things. Just like, tech reviewers like me and also current tech reviewers like Winston, we love to try new things and we like to share our experiences, and we'd like for you to share your experiences as well too. This has been our 10th episode. This is where we kind of shared all of our learnings along the way, and I hope that because we're a community here of people that just want to share, that you're able to share some of the things, your tips and tricks to help someone new out there figure out their way to a new podcast, or maybe they just want to write rundowns for a show. There's so many different jobs that are needed to have a successful podcast or a successful live stream. I mean, if Winston had an assistant, he would put him or her to work,
definitely
cracking the whip.
Look,
all day long.
Yeah, I know. Write that rundown for me.
Yeah, exactly. So
do some
lots
research.
of jobs, lots of opportunity. For sure, for sure. And with that, I think we're going to close up this very special 10th show. I'm not sure if we would call this season 1, but we're looking forward to our next 10 shows, of course, right, Winston?
That's right. Next, definitely next 10 shows. We have loads of content, especially now once I have Stephen's previously owned and previously used equipment. I'll be sounding a lot better, hopefully, with less noise in the background. There was, I think, of someone hoovering next door, I think, and then my fridge is working on there. In the world.
Where Winston has a new mic. Stay tuned next week on Winston's show.
The fucking show. All right, so now you know what equipment that we use in our podcast. Hope you can do a little bit of research, and of course, based on the budget that you have, you can go and get yourself some of the equipment out there for your podcast. So, definitely leave your comments down below. Of course, hit us up on the email. It's our podcastshow@gmail.com. And any last final words, Stephen?
Yeah. If people are looking at which crypto credit card to buy or could get into, or what you bought for had for dinner or something like that, where can people find you on social so they can creep on you?
That's right. Yeah, it's at Winston Chim at Twitter. So you find me on Twitter. I heard that they're going to be having a slight fee, right? So they're going to have a little fee section or advertise section anyway, but they're going to like that. It's Twitter anyway. Twitter at Winston Chim, and also Instagram at Winston Chim. You can find me there. Lots of content there, not tech related. It's more personal stuff, including fashion, food, all that kind of stuff. So check it out.
And I'm a little bit more techie, so if you want to know what kind of audio gear that I have that I'm playing with, you might find me at Twitter on @StephenFung, or more visually at Stephen Fung on Instagram, where you might see my stories of, I'm playing with this headphone, what do you think? Or I'm playing with this microphone, what do you think? Or, any questions that you might want to have about what I've got on the feed, you let me know. I'll drop a comment for me and I will take care of it. And on Twitter as well too. And I think this has been a fantastic 10th show. What do you think?
Yes, fantastic.
Is it time to wrap this up?
Yeah, definitely. Thank you so much. Please follow us, share our content and all sorts. Until next time, this is the It's Our Podcast Show with Stephen and Winston.
And on that bombshell, good night.
Good night.